community is composed of the collective stories, history, and heritage of its people. It's important that everyone has the opportunity to share their story and be heard. The Community Oral History Project creates community space for people to come together to share and learn about the history, heritage, and traditions of our communities, highlighting what we share in common. Community can be defined by location, or community can be considered a collection of people bound together by shared experiences. My name is Emily Jones Hudson, and here are these stories. Mr. Mead, thank you for agreeing to let me interview you and get your story, because your story is so important. So could you start off by just saying your whole name and when you were born, where you were born?
Okay. Bobby Joseph Mead, M-E-A-D-E. I was born in Estill, Kentucky. That's in the southernmost corner of Floyd County. And what else?
When were you born?
When? 1941, April the 18th.
Okay, all right. Tell me a little bit about, you said you were born in Estill County. Tell me a little bit about you growing up, what was...
Well, I actually, while I was still an infant, we moved. Well, I wasn't an infant. I was 5 when we moved to Wheelwright. And Wheelwright was the only community in surrounding counties that had a black population of about 1,500 people. They had their own school, and they isolated themselves. It was their choice. It wasn't by design of some white person, as it would have been in the South. I think that distinction should be noted. Northerners, I think, are more accepted. They find change more acceptable than Southerners do. Southerners like to rear back on their tradition, which is not bad. But I would have hated to be a black person in the South at any period, even today. And I think any white man that thinks otherwise is not in full control of his faculties. I've always loved people. I love to try to figure out how their mind works and why. Is it a religious basis, or is it personal? And there's a difference. A lot of times we take our personal differences and try to blame it on God, and we don't get away with it, but it happens. I think Michael Landon captures that in his series Little House on the Prairie. Does that very well. I still enjoy that show.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And you can't beat Della Reese. And there was one other black singer of the old days, besides Aretha. She's more today, Aretha Franklin. Wasn't Della. What was her name? It'll come to me. We'll go on.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Where your parents, grandparents in the military?
My father was in a critical skills area in World War II. that if you were a miner and the war broke when the war started, then your job was secured until the war's over. You know.
What was
And
his name?
Frank Mead, James Franklin was his name. Everybody called him Two-Gat. Back then, they liked to, especially in the hills, you know, black and white, you know. We had a guy in town, I forget his name, a black guy that wore 238s, and he says, well, I can do better with my 38s than you can with your 45. The result's the same in any instance, you know. But I don't believe we have any right to take any life form that God has put on the earth. So I try to place God first, everybody else second, and me last. And hopefully that will work out to my advantage. You know, I don't. I'm a teacher at heart, and I still, you know, love teaching. So.
What did you teach at?
I've taught at Federal City College in Washington, and in Israel at in Haifa and in Tel Aviv. It has a name, and I'm trying to think of it.
It'll come to you. It'll come to you.
One of the guys I worked with in Israel was Jacob Danino, and his parents had immigrated during World War II from Morocco to Israel, and his father was one of the original Mossadegh fighters, and Golda Meir, who was Prime Minister of Israel at the time, was a professor at the University of Chicago before the war. When the war started, she moved to Israel. So that evidence of intent on their parts, I think, should be noted. It speaks well for the both of them.
Okay. So what war did you serve in?
I was in from 1959 through 1989. So I had 11 and a half years civil service at Frankfurt. When Doug Sapp was Commissioner of Corrections. I was at North Point Training Center, and when the lady went to Ohio County to take over the prison at Green River, she tried every way she could to get me to come down there. I said, no, I'm not a flatlander. You can take the boy out of the mountains, you can't take the mountains out of the boy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Where did you enlist?
Ashland, Kentucky, or Prestonsburg, and then they took us from the courthouse to Ashland by. I remember a vehicle, a motor vehicle. It was a car. It wasn't a bus. There was only, I think, the driver and 3 others. So it was a little tight in the back seat, but in the front seat it was fine.
So what was your basic training like?
I had 30 days of basic training. I got there 4th of December, and I left the 1st, and the 3rd of January I went into a judge advocate's office in New Mexico and started auditing the officers club. The manager there was using the till as his own pocketbook. So I nailed that down. So I started out making top sergeants convicted felons. And ended up a top sergeant myself, So, but I was already knew what they had to look out for. So, but I enjoy when you can't. You can always throw yourself into something you love to do. I love the hands-on with people.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't actually go
I wasn't
overseas or anything like
overseas.
that?
You send drones, and they drop the bomb, and you sit back and estimate the percentage of destruction that bomb caused. I just pushed the button. That's that's the only. Well, I think God grants military people it's okay if it's in wartime. If you're a warrior fighting for good. And I think anything that any military person, regardless of nationality, does to help Israel is for the good. We turn our back on Israel, you turn your back on God. That was God designated the Jew, not anyone else. So
What was the general attitude about the war at that time?
and I see, yeah. The general attitude was hell no, we won't go. Those of us that was already in couldn't get out. I was extended they kept extending me every 3 years, even though the original enlistment was 4 years. They would extend you, and I had 14 years in, and I was talking with my brother on the telephone, and I says, I'm gonna hang it up, Roger, I've just had it. I said, I have to fight my way into the school buildings, when at Stanford, and I have to, you can take the uniform off, put on civilian clothes, but they can always tell you're a military, You've probably noted that going from Veteran Center to Veteran Center in Kentucky. I think it's the discipline or state of discipline of the military mind.
So what about when you got
don't think I ever did. I ever kept the same values, same standards. And I didn't change, I just changed clothes. You know? I think it would be very difficult for us to change after 20 years. You know, someone asked me, how long were you in the service? And I said, 20 years and 23 hours. They call the 23 hours processing time to get you out.
When did you come out?
I came out the 1st of January of 1989. I had 3 months of leave time built up, so I didn't really retire until 1 March. You know, but I was on leave that 3 months.
Okay. How do you think your military service shaped you?
Well, when I was 9, when my father died, he was hurt, injured in a slate fall in the mines, had 3 surgeries, and was returning from a checkup from after his 3rd surgery when he had a heart attack. He didn't feel good that morning when he got up, and he got off the bus in Louisa and went to his brother's house. He died there. So, but that's about it.
What do you want people to understand about what it means to serve?
Serving in the military is probably the greatest contribution a poor person can make to this country. John Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And I think I've lived by that. I hope that I'm working on a book of poetry right now. It's been most of it was written during the 6 years that I was in Saudi Arabia, and it says, we often wonder why people come into our lives and walk with us for a mile. And you know, when you want to, you can't, you want to recall something, and it just leaves your mind completely, you know, and then off the blue it all comes back, you know. So, but that's the way with poetry. I start by sitting down, collecting my thoughts, and coming up with all the rhyming words with my central thought. And like mile, smile, you know, trial, all that, you know. And then you polish, and you know, you look at it morning, noon, night. Then next morning you take a fresh look at it. I'm a perfectionist at heart anyway, and that's probably acquired while I was in the military too, you know. I always had good people and tried my best to bring the best out of them, you know. Not to make them little puppets, but in their own minds to develop that, their own discipline, you know, likes and dislikes.
anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's
Well,
it.
thank you so much for your interview, and thank you for your service.
Yeah. I thank you for you doing the interviews. I think it's important. Thank you, ma'am.
I was born in Manchester, Kentucky. Still live my address is Manchester. I don't live in town, I live outskirts. Went to high school, Clay County High. Graduated from high school, got drafted into the Army. Went from Fort Knox to Fort Knox and took my basic training, went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, took AIT, and also went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, took AIT. Then I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and shipped out to Vietnam.
What year were you drafted? When, you remember that, when you were drafted?
1969 was when I was drafted. 69 and 70 in Vietnam.
Okay. Well, what was your rank and what,
Specialist Fourth Class Field Radio Repairman.
okay.
I was out in the boonies a lot, checking stuff out. Probably didn't see it as rough as some of the other fellers, but I seen enough to mess me up. And a war story, I could tell several, but maybe just one. I seen them walk mortars up towards me, and me laying on the ground, hugging the ground tight. You feel like you melted right into the ground, and they was walking mortars right up toward you. They just cut it a little bit shorter. I wouldn't be telling that story. That's just one of the things. Another small story. They zeroed us in one night with rockets and mortars and killed 19 and wounded 24. So it was pretty rough at times, but other times it wasn't rough. And come back home, had a son before I went over there, and he was 14 months old, walking around talking and saying, "Who are you?" That was the worst thing that I had, because he didn't even know me. He's 50-some years old now. I'm 76, born March 30th, 1949. And I stayed got out of the military and just went to work. Worked till I got disabled and couldn't work no more.
What did you work at?
I worked from Cincinnati to northern Indiana, back to Clay County. Then I worked around the mines for 30 years, I guess, close to it, 28, 30. Got broke up, had to retire then. Now I'm here in a nursing home in Hazard. Don't know for how long, maybe I'll get to go home before long. But that's the whole point of being here, is getting to go back home.
Yeah.
Getting well enough to go back home.
Yeah. When you were discharged from the military, how you came home, were you received? How was, your reception coming back home?
Really didn't have no reception except from home and wife, because I missed all the stuff in San Francisco just pulling off. They was heckling the soldiers and stuff when they come back. And I missed all that. I left in the middle of the night. That's probably the reason I missed it. And we didn't get a very warm reception because they called us everything in the world.
There were some rough times back then.
But something that you really think you're doing for your country and find out that it was just a big mess up. And I left Vietnam, it was 95 degrees. 4.5 hours later, 3.5 hours later, I landed in Japan. It's 32 degrees and raining. We had short sleeves on and a khaki outfit, and we'd been in that hot weather for a year. Everybody's teeth was popping. Then we took off and flew to Alaska. Got off in Alaska, and it's the same way, 32 degrees and raining. So rough coming back. Then we flew into San Francisco, and I left the Army in San Francisco and come home. Since that time I worked mostly as a welder for heavy equipment.
Okay. How many years did you work as a welder when you came back home?
Probably 27 years or something as a welder. I spent several other different jobs when I first come back, couldn't settle down. Finally got to where I could be by myself a lot. Couldn't handle a lot of stuff. But that's a different story we're talking about there. PTSD is what it's called, post-traumatic stress disorder. It'll mess you up. You still have flashbacks and stuff, which most people don't understand what a flashback's about. It's where the war comes back to haunt you.
How do you deal with that?
Best way I can, because they can't give you nothing. They can't do nothing for it. I've spent time here and spent time there and done this and done that, and still got the same symptoms. It's something that's in your mind, they can't erase it. That's about all I've got to say. I could sit here and talk half a day about it, it wouldn't do no good.
All right. Well, thank you for your story, and thank you for your service.
I appreciate you interviewing me.
Hey, my name's Ronnie McDowell. I was born in Morgan County, West Liberty, Kentucky, on October 22nd, 1965. I was a little bit undecided about what I wanted to do for a living, so I went to college first semester at LCC in Lexington. I did that for about one semester, and I decided, because everybody was laying off in manufacturing at that time, which is what I did, I decided to join the military. Didn't have nothing to do with 9/11 like everybody else was re-enlisting for. I just got tired of being laid off. And I went to the U.S. Air Force, and I wanted to retire with them, but they wanted to switch me from maintenance from military police, and I can't fix nothing. I ain't got the patience to fix anything. But they sent me to North Dakota, Grand Forks, and I guarded the B-52s and the nuclear weapons with 25 megaton bombs, the big ones. And that was pretty interesting. They had harsh winters and harsh summers, but I did manage to get through it. And after I did that, for about one tour, I re-enlisted in 2006 in the Army National Guard, which I retired with them. Total service, 10.5 years.
Were you in active duty, active service, and what is this, the Vietnam era?
No, I was born a little bit too early for Vietnam. I was basically stateside service. All my service was stateside. Fort Sill, Oklahoma, Lackland, Texas, Grand Forks, Oklahoma, or not Oklahoma, but North Dakota. And then I did combat training in Texas, Lackland, Texas. Moved on to police training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So all my service was stateside. I never got deployed overseas.
Okay. So the police and what does that entail?
Well, you have to watch the maintenance people put the nukes on the B-52s and take them off the B-52s to put them back in storage. It's a two-man policy. So you're not like a civilian police officer where you pull over people. You just have to watch maintenance to make sure they do their job right. Because if they mess up, you know, you have to sort of jack them up and put one in jail and that type of thing. Because they have to do their job right. They can't make any mistakes taking a weapon off and putting one on. They all have to do that correctly.
Yeah, okay. What were some of your biggest challenges while you were serving?
Well, the biggest challenges was they had a number of different positions to be in. You had to be a sniper qualified marksman. They had different positions that you had to go to. They had a mobile patrol, they had a air traffic control, and they had an outer post where you would stay in a telephone booth and allow fire trucks and aircraft to go out the fence line. And you would have to make sure that they were authorized to come in, authorized to go out. So they had different positions. You had to learn all of them. So you couldn't be specialized in just one area. You had to learn every position there was around that nuclear alert aircraft. And then they had the base next door to me, they had Minot, North Dakota. And that was basically just babysitting the ICBM. You were inside the silo getting ready to push the launch buttons. But I was the lucky one. I got the nuclear alert aircraft. So there was always something going on around there. And we always had the occasional visitor, like the SR-71, which would come in for refueling, or the F-15, which would come in for refueling, or U.S. KC-135 tankers, which would refuel the B-52 bombers in midair. So there was always something going on. It was really interesting.
Okay. What was back then, what was the general attitude about the war that was going on at that time?
Well, at that time, we had Bosnia going on, and several different things around the world with Hamas and Israel still going on. So we had different things going on at one time, and everybody had different opinions, but we all had to work as a team no matter where we went, no matter what we did. We tried to stay neutral in every situation. We didn't want to be drawn into another Vietnam, that type of thing. But we had to do our job and make sure to keep the peace all over the world. And that's pretty much what we did.
Okay. What year, when did you come out of military?
Well, I did one tour under Reagan from January 84 to January 86, and then I did another tour, Army National Guard, from 2006, and I retired March 12, 2011.
Okay, what did you do once you retired out?
I did what most retired people do. I relaxed, read books, TV, movies, that type of thing. I had a really serious bad wreck, and where I hit a tree with my car, and the airbags pushed me in the back seat, and they said my car went into a tailspin after my front tire exploded. It pushed me into a tree at about 115 miles an hour. So they had to medevac me to a UK hospital where they said I had a traumatic brain injury and I cut my thumb off, so they had to repair all that. And they took my license, they wouldn't let me drive anymore. So I had pretty much was forced into a retirement, and I had to take it easy after that.
Okay. What kind of advice would you give to young people now who's, maybe trying to decide, they're going to the military or to do something else? But what kind of advice would you give to this young generation?
Well, all my life I heard that college pays you more if you get college. Well, I'm a living example that college doesn't do that. Because if you get the degree and you don't get the job, well, colleges don't give refunds. So I've got 4 degrees, a police degree and from the airport, police degree from the Army National Guard, culinary arts, Army National Guard, teaching from UK, history teacher, and I've got another degree in manufacturing from LCC UK. So that's 4, and I had to join the military to get a check, because they're just, my basic advice is find a job, don't depend on college, find something that you're good at, and go ahead and earn your money, and start your career to stay with it.
Okay. What things did you learn from your military experience that helped you after you got out?
That helped me get out?
That helped you after you got out?
Well, I definitely learned a lot about communications and getting along with people and getting along with your peers, regardless of what their beliefs are in, whether it be religious or anything else. I did get along with all my peers, and we did work as a team, and everything we did, we always had to work as a team.
All right. Anything else you want to share?
Well, probably the scariest day that I had came on October 16 in 1985. It was the appearance of Ronald Reagan going on TV, and he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, you will help me tear down this wall in Berlin." Well, my B-52s had taken off, and they were loaded with nuclear weapons. It wasn't a drill. They was flying over Canada, and they was halfway there. And finally, Mr. Gorbachev threw up his hands. He said, "Okay, I will help you tear down the wall." And Mr. Reagan called the B-52s back, and my air traffic control said, "Ronnie, you can put up the weapons now and lock them back up. Mission accomplished." I said, "Just thank you, Lord. I hope I don't have to do that again." Because that was a really scary moment. We didn't know whether we should hit the basement or whether we should just wait for the planes to come back.
Wow.
And they came back over Canada. They flew over Canada, and they came back.
Wow.
Because being military police officers, it's either really boring or it's really exciting. And you don't want to be there when it's really, really exciting, because usually something bad happens. Plane being on fire, dropping a nuke off a plane, you got to go clean up the mess, something like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything else you want to share comes to mind?
Well, try to live in a place where you can have pets, because pets do mean a lot in your life. They help you go through life, even when times are bad. Because if you got family and pets, it makes life a bit easier. Life doesn't have to be hard, but if you live in a place where you're restricted to have family, to have pets, then life becomes harder because you got nobody to help you go through.
Okay. Did you have pets growing up?
I did have 3 pets. I had a Thai bear, which was a German Shepherd Chow, his mate, Candace Abbey, and she had 11 puppies, which I kept 1, Bandit. So I had 2 German Shepherds and a Chow.
Okay. Were you allowed to have dogs in the military, or?
No, we lived in a dormitory, so we were only allowed to have stuffed animals, really. but I had mortgage on my own home, and I lived with my wife Lisa at the time, so we was allowed to have pets. So we picked out the 3 that we wanted, and we kept them. I taught them how to play football, and they always had to be on defense rather, so they could rush the quarterback, which was me. And I was playing with a Nerf football, and as soon as I would throw it, they would tackle me, and they would about eat me alive. I had an army jacket on to protect me, but Lisa would sometimes have to pull them off of me. But
So-
they always sacked the quarterback, and they always got me down. I couldn't make a first down.
How important is it for family? You're talking about family, to be supportive of your decision to go into the military and then coming out, the support that, you would need afterwards. How important is family?
Well, it's very important because you miss a lot of time, personal time with your family, but you can pass time by writing letters to your family and keeping in touch with them, and that way they can help you get through the rough times of boot camp and that sort of thing. But it's important for them to be supportive of what you do for a living and protecting the country and how important you are to the country.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Not only for the interview, but thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I was born in Prairie County here in coal mining camp, and my parents moved to Chicago in about 1951, and I stayed there until I got out of high school, and I went in the military from there.
Okay. What coal camp were you born in?
I'm sorry.
What coal camp?
I was born in what they call Bonneman,
Mm-hmm.
but my mother and father lived in an apartment in behind the commissary,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure, but I believe that was Liberty. I don't know about that, but
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
so we like I say, that my dad worked for Blue Diamond. Everybody worked for Blue Diamond back then, and when the mining got slow, we moved to Chicago
Mm-hmm.
and stayed there until I was grown.
So you enlisted in the military from Chicago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What inspired you to enlist? Why did you enlist in the military?
The draft.
Okay. What?
See, I went into the Navy,
Okay.
and I'd already got like a draft notice, but I still went overseas, and I still went to Vietnam, but it was a better situation than what it would have been,
Mm-hmm.
So
What rank were you? What rank?
I was a third class petty officer. I'd taken my test for second class, but I passed. But they had at that time they had what they call a P and A, passed but not advanced. So and other than that, I have to extend this. So I didn't want to do that. But
Were you in active combat?
yeah, I was. It's on my DD, 214. I think I spent 2 years, 9 months, and 29 days in hostile fire pay.
How old were you when you were drafted? How old were you?
Well, I had to get my draft card when I was 18, and then 19, I went in service. And I spent, out of 4 years in the Navy, I spent 3 years overseas. You know, which really pretty good. I was in a helicopter outfit. And it's pretty good duty compared to what I've seen, you know, other people going through. And our home base was at SEKY, Japan. I was in HC-7 was my squadron, and we deployed to Vietnam. You know, just groups at a time. You know, eight or nine guys. You know, and I was in a search and rescue unit. I spent a lot of time at sea, you know, because we would go off North Vietnam and sit there, you know, and I've spent as much as 70 days on the water like that, you know, and but am I rambling too much? Yeah, I didn't spend much time in the States. I spent, out of the 4 years, I spent a good 3 years of it over there. And
was there any specific events or, you know, that just remains with you, things that you saw or experienced?
oh yeah, quite a few things, you know. I was on a Chicago, which is a cruiser. I was on about 10 or 11 ships while I was over there. We'd stay here till they go in, and then we go to the next ship. And but on the Chicago, they were going to do a refueling, and it went bad, and it washed that crew, refueling crew, back around to where we were. We were standing back there by the helicopter, and had to fly about 11 of them off the ship because they had compound fractures and stuff like that. That was, you know, 1 second everything was normal, and the next second, you know, we had that. But I traveled a lot while I was in there. You know, like I say, we deploy, and I never stayed in one place very long. Even when I came back to the States, I got out of HC-7, let's see, what year was that? 71, I guess. I went back to, you know, to Imperial Beach, California. And 9 days later, I was going back over, you know, so I didn't get to spend much time in America. But Imperial Beach was like the helicopter center for the Navy on the West Coast. Yeah.
You mentioned that you traveled quite a bit. What are some of the places you traveled to?
Everywhere in the Far East. But our home squadron was at SEKY, Japan, and then we had a detachment in QB Point in the Philippines, and from there we'd go to whatever ship or whatever we was going to go to. So I spent a lot of time in the Philippines too, you know, and then in Vietnam. I didn't care much. I was wanting to get out of there as soon as I got there, you know. But I'd 1 year there, I probably spent 70, about 200 days setting off the coast there, without coming in, you know. 70 days, and then 40 days like that. And it gets pretty boring and irritating. going off course with this, and all right, no. Any questions you want to ask me?
So when did you get to come home, and when you were came back home from the military?
In January of '72.
Okay.
My parents were already living back here in Hazard, and I never went back to Chicago after that point. I just stayed here. Hazard looked like Mayberry to me compared to Chicago, you know. And
So what did you do when you got back, and how were you received? You know, as a soldier coming back from Vietnam War.
well, back then you weren't received very well, you know. It's not like it is now, and people saying thank you for your service, you know. But no, I came back and I went to work in the coal mines. I worked in the coal mines a while, and and I played music in honky tonks then, you know, and
You're in Hazard?
oh yeah, Hazard was loaded back then with them.
And tell me about Hazard at that time. Tell me more about what it looked like and the things that was going on, and that kind of thing.
You mean as far as nightlife type stuff, or?
Life period, nightlife, and a lot of folks, when they hear about that, they don't think about the honky tonks and the musical scene and all of that.
Well, like I say, I grew up in Chicago, so when I came here, I didn't have any references, you know. But I'd spent quite a bit of time just traveling in the service, and you know, I fooled around about 5 years, and working in the coal mines and playing in bars, playing. And then I got married, and we had 3 children, and they're all college educated and doing fairly well. And I got one son that's a principal at one of these grade schools over there. So I never really wanted to leave here once I got here. And the music, that was just something to make a little extra money. I'd play 6 nights a week and work in the mines during the day. That was getting pretty rough.
What instrument did you play?
Well, I played guitar, and then I played I don't know if you know what a pedal steel is? I play pedal steel too, It's a difficult instrument to play. It's, you basically use both legs and both hands, you got a volume pedal here, and then you change the tones with it, these pedals over here, but mostly I played guitar most. I was a pretty good guitar player all my life, And when I got out of service, my brother he didn't get drafted. He moved back here with my parents, and he was already playing music. So I just joined right in that like that. And I've done that for about 20 years, just one place to another, But now I look at a picture of a band or something I was playing in, and they're all dead except me. So I don't know.
Do you remember the names of the bands? Some of the names?
A lot of them really didn't have a name, but when I first come back here, we played in a band called total eclipse, and played more rock type stuff, you know, like from that period there, like a REO Speedwagon or something like that, you know. And then from that point on, I don't know if
Okay. Do you have other, like, is the military experience part of your family heritage? Did your father or uncles or anyone else serve in the military?
yeah, everyone did. My father was in World War II.
What was his name?
Robert Hurt. And then interesting thing, he was on a ship, they were gonna do a D-Day landing on Japan, and they dropped a bomb, you know, cause they expected like a lot of casualties from that, but it didn't come about, you know. And his brother was on an aircraft carrier called, I can't think of it right now, but it had been hit by kamikazes and everything, you know. And I had another uncle who was in Korea, and that's pretty much the way it was. You know, back in that time, everybody was in the military, I think, or a big majority of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad was in the Army though, you know. That's one of the reasons I went in the Navy. He said, at least you get some hot meals. Okay.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share that comes to mind?
Pardon me?
Anything else that you would like to share?
Sure. Well, I can see a big difference now in the way they treat veterans than they did, you know, when I got out of the service, you know. Everything, I guess everything goes in cycles, you know. I don't know, but they weren't appreciated the same way back then. It's just like my grandfather, he was in the Navy, and he was covered with tattoos. And people would say, "Where's your tattoo?" I said, "I never got a tattoo." You know?
What was your grandfather's name?
His name was Robert, also. Yeah, he was on Arizona, but that was way before Pearl Harbor, you know. And he was, I guess it's during World War I, you know. And that squadron I was in Japan, they had a Medal of Honor winner, Clyde Lasson. I don't know any interest. I didn't know him personally. He was gone by the time I got in there, you know. But I just thought I'd throw that in there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'll say is thank you for your interview today, and thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, that I honestly, sometimes I'm a little bitter, you know, because nowadays they didn't show that back then for a veteran.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, we appreciate your service.
Well, thanks for interviewing me.